Well, everyone, I just got back from a long weekend at the Yukon Gaming Conference in Ypsilanti, Michigan. So I want to take some time here to share some of the things I've learned over the past few years about running a vendor table at an event like this. Welcome to Beyond Kalidasia, the official internet television show of Legends of Kalidasia. I'm Jason, the creator of the game. And this is the show that takes you behind the scenes of my company, shows you how some of the things operate around here, and it's also where I share some of the lessons I've learned over the past few years with you in case you want to go down the road of creating your own tabletop game. Now, as I just mentioned, I just got back from the Yukon Gaming Conference in Ypsilanti, Michigan. This is one of the largest local conferences around here in southeastern Michigan. Probably has several hundred people attend, and it's host to a variety of games from tabletop miniatures to board games to role-playing games and a few non-gaming events and some other weird things like stomping on a balloon animal monster creature thing, which unfortunately I don't have any pictures of. But it's a cool thing to see. Now, so with that out of the way, when I started this whole process of running vendor tables several years ago, there's a few things, honestly, I really didn't know or didn't have a very good grasp of. So let me share you some of those in a very short and simple list. Number one is you want to have a plan. Now you can see the video going on right here. I'm actually doing a rapid setup of what was going to be my ideal vendor table setup. I actually told them ahead of time I wanted to bring a table, so I wanted to plan and get things all ready to go. The reason for this is actually because up until a few days ago, the schedule said the vendor hall opened at the exact same time that people will start to be able to come in and shop. It's kind of a weird thing. I've never seen it happen before, but that's how it was literally until a few days ago. So that's why a week before I set up a mock table, kind of laid out where all my product would go in the hopes that I can go ahead and set this thing up really fast and really quick. And therefore minimize kind of the downtime between me rushing stuff in from my car and to when I can actually start selling things. But with all this comes item number two, which kind of like that famous quote they talk about in war where the best battle plan never survives contact with the enemy. That applies true to conventions. Fortunately, a few days before the convention, as I mentioned, they changed the schedule to where vendors would have 2 hours to set up before the vendor hall opened, which is a really good thing. But for any number of variety of reasons when it comes to these conventions, the schedules changed, stuff happens, and all sorts of crazy, unexpected events happen. I can go down a list of why this is, but that's not particularly important. The thing is, granted, if you have a plan, you want a plan, it's awesome. You got to know what's going on and what you're going to do when you get there. But be ready to change that plan and have other things in place such that when that plan changes, it's not going to throw you off too much or you're not going to get roadblocked. One thing short and simple, I had mentioned to them for this convention, I like to bring my own table. But when I got there, they already had a table set up for me. Fortunately, it was actually a better table than what I brought, so things turned out pretty good in this case. But that's one example of some of the possible things that could happen to you. So with your plan, make sure that things are actually flexible and that you can adapt to changing circumstances. Now, item number three is make sure that you have the right tools. Most importantly, duct tape. Duct tape is by far not only the most amazing tool ever invented in general purpose, but when it comes to a vendor table, it is the best thing you can possibly have. Stuff will break, you'll have to kind of anchor things weird ways, and sometimes build shelving. I actually build my bookcase shelvings out of duct tape a little bit. It's kind of strange like that. But just like that, it's very important to have something duct tape to fix anything that comes up. Other great tools are, one, anything you need to fix your miniatures. If you're selling miniatures or if you have your own miniature line you're selling, you need to have the tools on site to fix them. They get bumped, they get dropped. My table's fallen apart before. Someone bumps a leg or something like that, and then pieces break. So that, of course, that includes things like glue, a file, a little pin vise if you pin your miniatures. Maybe paints. I don't usually take paints with me because I don't have time to do that kind of repairs. But just things along those lines that you need to fix your miniatures in case something goes wrong. Then also, I recommend one of these little guys. This is a Leatherman tool. There are those fancy little tool belts that have pliers, wire cutters, screwdrivers, a knife, scissors, all those little things. Any small amount of general tools like this is a great way to handle certain situations that come up. The last of my most favorite tools is a cart. You're going to need one of these to carry your product back and forth from your car to your vendor table. And trust me when I say you do not want to carry all your boxes by hand. The venue hosting the event may have carts to use, but this is not always the case. Therefore, it is best to just bring your own. Now, item number 4 pertains if you're selling your own miniatures game. I can definitely go into this whole section very deep, and I definitely will do that in a future episode. But right now, when it comes to selling your own game, make sure, one, that your game is accessible. If you're selling other stuff in your vendor table in addition to your game, put your game first and foremost out there in a way that people are easy to see, and people will kind of catch their eye, and they'll want to stop by and ask questions and take a look. Also, in addition to making your game accessible, that goes along with running an event. If I don't run any kind of event in a game, whether it's a large game sometime during the weekend, whether it's demos on my vendor table, I rarely ever sell a copy of Legends of Kalidasia. It's very important that you put your game out there so that other people can play it. There's going to be a lot of other people selling other games, often with a lot more money and backing than yours, that probably have a lot shinier and prettier graphics. Pretty much any game manufactured out there today has a lot prettier box than what Legends of Kalidasia does. So those games are going to catch people's eye. So I have to sell my game on the merits of its gameplay, and that's why it's so important for me to be running demos, running events, and all those kind of things. Item number 5. These events are going to be exhausting. If you've never done this kind of sales work before, it involves 8 to 10 hours a day, usually for 1 to 3 days, of trying to sell stuff to people. A lot of talking to people, and there may be even some kind of shouting if it's a very noisy place. Because in big vendor halls, there's a lot of people talking. You sometimes have to talk a little louder than normal, even to talk to somebody a few feet away. You're going to spend a lot of time on your feet. There are usually chairs or these things for you to sit down, but I don't recommend sitting down a long time. Just because if you sit down, you kind of hide in the corner, people don't see you. If people don't see you, they're often not going to stop at your table, or you're not going to be able to get the kind of engagement you need to keep them at the table to direct them towards your game. So be prepared for long, exhausting days. That's why I recommend, if it is at a hotel and it's a multi-day event, I do recommend getting a hotel room, even if it's not very far away. And Ypsilanti, Michigan for me is about an hour drive from where I live. So I could have driven back and forth each day, but I much preferred having a hotel room to where I could sleep in and where I could then spend more time at night at the convention to run demos and whatever it may be to try and sell my game. And then item number 6, get ready to deal with the people. There are I'm trying to think of a polite way to say this. With any kind of large group of people, there are a lot of eccentric, interesting characters. That's especially true with the gaming population. There are some really interesting characters out there. I guess that's a fair way to put it. It's not a bad, not a positive, not a negative term. Just interesting characters who like to talk about all sorts of wonderful different things. So be ready to deal with that kind of stuff. There's going to be a lot of conversations, and there's going to be people are going to go off with some weird tangents, whether it's related to your game or not. And you just got to be polite, smile, and have fun with these conversations. Don't take them too seriously, because you have no idea where they're going to go. One time, my favorite story, nothing to do with my company really, some guy went off talking about how Games Workshop's business practices are the reason this country, United States, has a massive national debt. I have no idea how I came to that conclusion. Didn't really make any sense. He kind of jumped around. But hey, that's an example of one of the more bizarre stories I've seen running around doing these vendor tables. Well, there you go. It's a short list of important things you need to know if you want to run a vendor table at a local gaming convention. If you have any questions about these topics, or if you want to ask me something else, send me an email at kalidasiagames@gmail.com. I'll take a look at it and possibly answer it on a future episode of the show. For more information about Legends of Kalidasia, or to download a free trial starter kit, you can do so at the game's website at kalidasia.com. So once again, I'm Jason. Thanks for watching. Bye.